He won the lottery, $31 million, the only winning ticket in the entire state of Texas. He quit his job. He bought a ranch. He gave homes to his family, cars to his kids, thousands of dollars to his church. He donated 480 turkeys to the poor at Thanksgiving. For 20 months, he lived the dream that every struggling American has imagined at least once. Then, on May 22nd, 1999, his son came to pick him up for dinner. He found him dead. Shortly before the end, Billie Bob Harrell Jr. had confided to his financial advisor. Just one sentence. "This is the worst thing that ever happened to me." He wasn't talking about losing the money. He was talking about winning it. To understand what happened to Billie Bob Harrell, you have to understand who he was before June 1997. He was born in 1949, grew up in Houston, Texas. His parents came from Beaumont, working-class people looking for a better life in the city. His father became a pressman. Honest work, long hours, nothing glamorous. That was the world Billie Bob grew up in. You work, you provide, you go to church, you keep your head down and hope for better days. By all accounts, he was a devoted man, not just to his family, though that was clear in everything he did, but to his faith. He was deeply religious, the kind of man who saw God's hand in the small moments of everyday life. He believed genuinely, completely, that goodness was eventually rewarded. After high school, he had dreams of going into the ministry, but life moved faster than plans. He married Barbara Jean, 3 children followed. The family needed stability, not seminary school. He worked various jobs over the years, some decent, some not. By the mid-1990s, the layoffs had started. One job disappeared, then another. By 1997, Billie Bob Harrell was stocking electrical supplies at a Home Depot, earning hourly wages. At 47 years old, his son Billy III would later describe the weight his father carried. He wanted to give his family everything: vacations, security, a future. Instead, he was counting dollars on payday, hoping the math would work out. But every Wednesday and every Saturday, Billie Bob would scrape together a few spare dollars and buy lottery tickets. Sometimes he'd use his children's birth dates as the numbers. Sometimes he let the computer choose what they call a quick pick. He never won anything meaningful, but he never stopped trying, because somewhere inside, he believed his luck was about to turn. He was right. It was a quiet Sunday evening in June 1997. Billie Bob was sitting in his armchair. He had a quick pick ticket from the Lotto Texas drawing. He picked up the newspaper, found the winning numbers, and started comparing. His son, Billy III, was nearby. Billie Bob called him over. "Bill, come over here and take a look at this. Make sure I'm reading this right." Billy walked over. He looked at the ticket. He looked at the newspaper. They match. $31 million, the only winning ticket in Texas. A few weeks later, Billie Bob arrived in Austin to collect his first payment. He brought his entire family, his minister, his attorneys. He stood at a podium in front of cameras, reporters, and a room full of strangers. And for the first time in years, he smiled without worry behind it. "I wasn't going to give up," he told the crowd. "Everyone kept telling me it would get better. I didn't realize it would get this much better." The crowd cheered. Billie Bob smiled. He had no idea what was coming. For a while, a brief, beautiful while, everything was exactly what he'd imagined. Billie Bob quit his job at Home Depot the same week. He bought a ranch outside of Houston. He purchased a half-dozen homes for himself, for family members, for people he loved. Every child got a new car. Barbara Jean got a new car. He gave tens of thousands of dollars to his church. When congregation members came to him with needs, he helped them, no questions asked. He donated 480 turkeys to families in need at Thanksgiving. His oldest son, Ben, described it simply. His father loved the attention, not in a vain way, in a human way. He had spent years invisible, struggling, overlooked. Now people were looking at him, talking about him, coming to him. He was someone. He'd rather have that attention more than buying himself something, Ben said. Billie Bob Harrell had finally become the man he always believed he could be. A provider, a leader, a blessing. But something was shifting, quietly, at the surface. Word travels fast in a community. When one of their own comes into $31 million. At first, it was family, then extended family, then church members, then acquaintances, then strangers. People Billie Bob had never met, calling his home phone, asking for money, telling him their stories, appealing to his faith, his generosity, his sense of obligation. He changed his phone number, then changed it again. He couldn't say no. That was the thing people who knew him would say afterward. Billie Bob simply could not refuse someone standing in front of him with a need. Whether that was a spiritual conviction or something deeper in his character, no one could quite say. But the money flowed out of his accounts as fast as it arrived. The lending spiraled out of control. The giving spiraled, the pressure mounted. And then a financial company approached him with an offer. They would give him a lump sum payment immediately, cash in hand, in exchange for his future annual lottery checks. On paper, it seemed like relief. What it actually was a catastrophically bad agreement. He signed away a significant portion of his future payments at a fraction of their actual value. The company got rich. Billie Bob got far less than he was owed. He had gone from $31 million to something considerably less, and the checks were still being eaten by loans, gifts, and requests he couldn't bring himself to refuse. His marriage, already strained by the chaos, finally broke. In early 1999, Billie Bob and Barbara Jean separated. He was left alone in a large, expensive home in Kingwood, with less money than anyone looking at him from the outside would have believed. The ranch, the houses, the cars, the donations, the company deal, the endless generosity, it was all gone, or going. And so was the man. Sometime before May 1999, Billie Bob Harrell Jr. sat across from a financial advisor. The advisor asked him how he was doing. Billie Bob looked at him and said something the advisor would never forget. Winning the lottery is the worst thing that ever happened to me. He wasn't being dramatic. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He meant it in the plainest, most painful way. A man can mean something. The money hadn't saved him. It had dismantled him, piece by piece, relationship by relationship, until the man who had sat in that armchair with hope in his hands no longer recognized his own life. On May 22nd, 1999, less than 20 months after winning, Billie Bob Harrell Jr. locked himself in an upstairs bedroom of his home in Kingwood. He left 3 handwritten notes. One was addressed to Barbara Jean, his ex-wife. It read, "I didn't want this. I just wanted you." His son found him later that day. They had been planning to have dinner together that evening. Billie Bob was 49 years old. After Billie Bob's death, his family fractured. His children and their grandparents couldn't even agree on whether he had truly taken his own life. The grief was too large, the questions too painful to let settle. He left behind no foundation, no law in his name, no campaign, just 3 letters, a divided family, and a question that still doesn't have a comfortable answer. Psychologists have a name for what happened to Billie Bob, and others like him. They call it sudden wealth syndrome, the complete disruption of identity, relationships, and purpose that can follow a financial windfall. The person you were, the struggles, the community, the daily meaning gets replaced overnight, and sometimes there's nothing left underneath. Research consistently shows that the happiness boost from winning the lottery fades within 1 to 2 years. What doesn't fade are the consequences. The relationships changed, the trust broken, the identity lost. Billie Bob Harrell Jr. wanted to provide for his family. He wanted to be generous. He wanted to be seen as someone who mattered. He achieved all 3, and it killed him. The ticket is still out there somewhere, probably framed. The numbers still match. But the man who checked them twice on a Sunday evening in 1997, the man who called his son over and said, "Make sure I'm reading this right," that man never really survived the win. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about luck, about money, about what we actually need, that's exactly what Billie Bob's story deserves. Not to be a punchline, not to be a warning label, but to be remembered as a human being who got everything he asked for and still couldn't find his way home. If you or someone you know is struggling, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Subscribe for more stories like this. Every week, we go deep on the moments that history almost forgot, where every story begins.